If you disappeared tomorrow, not for a weekend, but for good, would your cat even notice? For years, people confidently said, no. Cats are aloof, independent, creatures that tolerate us for the food and forget us by dinner. But that story is quietly falling apart, and what is replacing it is not the comforting answer you might be hoping for. Because the real question was never whether your cat would notice you were gone. It would. The harder question, the one that is genuinely difficult to sit with, is this. Does your cat even understand what gone means? Or would it spend its days searching an empty house for someone it has no way of knowing is never coming back, waiting at your door, climbing into your chair, expecting you, with nothing that would ever let it stop? We are going to be honest in this video. The truth about whether your cat mourns you turns out to be stranger and quieter, and in one specific way, far heavier than a simple yes could ever be. Let's start with what we can actually see, because the behavior is real, even when its meaning is uncertain. When someone a cat is deeply bonded to suddenly disappears, a great many cats change in ways that are hard to wave away. Many stop eating or pick at the bowl and turn away. Their sleep goes strange, either far too much or never quite settling. Many begin to call out, a loud, flat, repeating cry sent into empty rooms, searching the silence for an answer that does not come. And many search. They move through the house, checking, returning again and again to the exact spot the missing one used to occupy, the side of the bed, the chair, the patch of floor by the window, and they sit there, and they wait. A recent study that surveyed cat owners after another pet in the home had died found a striking number reporting these same patterns: the lost appetite, the crying, the seeking. So this is not one strange cat, and it is not just a story sentimental people tell themselves. It is a consistent, documented pattern across enormous numbers of them. Something is clearly happening. The only real question is what? And here is where we have to be careful, more careful than most people are willing to be, because those behaviors look like grief. But we cannot let the way something looks decide it for us, because a cat cannot tell us what it feels. And the gap between my cat is grieving, and my cat's whole routine has been shattered, and it is stressed, is a gap we simply cannot see across from the outside. The science here is thin. Most of what we have is owners reading their own cats through human eyes, which is exactly where people have always gone wrong about them. So, the honest position is not a triumphant yes. It is more uncomfortable than that. Something is clearly happening, but what it actually feels like on the inside remains a genuine mystery. And that uncertainty opens a far heavier question. Because to mourn someone, in the full sense, you need one specific and terrible piece of understanding. You need to know that they are not coming back. Ever. Human grief is built entirely on that knowledge, and there is no good evidence a cat has that concept at all. Death, permanence, never again. The very thing that gives our loss its crushing weight almost certainly lies beyond what a cat's mind can hold. A cat lives in the present, in the steady rhythm of things, leaving and coming back. You leave, and you return. The bowl empties, and it fills. So when you do not return, a cat is not equipped to conclude that you are dead. It has no category for it. There is nowhere for the thought he is gone forever to even land. Which means whatever a cat goes through when it loses you is almost certainly not mourning. It is something else entirely. And that something else may be worse. So picture it from the inside, from behind the cat's own eyes. The single most important presence in its whole world, the warm constant its every day was built around, simply stops appearing. No goodbye it could brace for. No explanation it could possibly understand. One day, you are there, the center of everything, and the next, you are not. And the cat, with no concept of death and no way to make sense of the silence, does the only thing that makes sense to it. It looks for you. It goes to the places you are supposed to be. It climbs into your chair, the one that still holds the shape of you and the scent of you, and it waits there. It goes to the door at the hour you always used to come home and watches it with the patient certainty of an animal that has seen it open 1,000 times. And it moves through a house still soaked in the smell of you, a smell that fades a little more with every single day that passes, the last vanishing evidence that you were ever real, evaporating out of the air, and still it keeps expecting you. Not for a day, not for a week. It has no reason on earth to stop, because nothing has told it to stop, because the one concept that would let it stop does not exist anywhere in its mind. So it waits, and it searches the rooms again, and it returns to your chair, holding open a space for a person it has no way of understanding is never going to fill it again. That is not the clean, knowing grief of a human being. It is an open, unanswered absence. A question asked into an empty room, again and again, with no answer ever coming back. A wound that cannot close, because it was never given the one piece of information, however brutal, that would let it begin. And this is the point where it reaches directly into you, because you know absence too. You have stood at a window watching an empty street. You have stared at a phone that refused to light up. You have lain awake, listening for a key in a lock that never turned. So you know, at least the shape of it, what that cat by the door is living through. But your grief, however brutal it becomes, comes with one mercy the cat may never be given. You understand. The knowing is agony, the worst thing there is. But that same terrible knowing is also, slowly, across months and years, the very thing that lets you begin to let go. You are given the awful gift of closure. The cat may never get it. It may never come to understand that you are gone, which means it may never get to stop waiting. Sit with which of those is worse. To know with crushing certainty that someone you love is gone forever, and carry that weight for the rest of your life. Or to never understand it at all, and simply keep a quiet, confused vigil, expecting them at the door, day after day after day, with a hope that has no reason to die because it was never once told that it should. We do not get to know which one your cat lives inside of. But notice what they share. Neither one is the cold, careless indifference we spent so long believing in. Both of them are a kind of love that has been left with absolutely nowhere to go. And whatever it is the cat is feeling, the simple fact that it feels anything at all is the part that should land the hardest, because of what it quietly reveals about you. You do not search the whole house for the furniture when it goes missing. You do not hold a vigil for a change in the weather. The size of an absence is, precisely and exactly, the size of the presence that left it behind. So the independent, self-contained, supposedly indifferent creature combing the silent house for you is not evidence that cats are cold and that you were only ever a convenience. It is the loudest possible proof of the exact opposite. That the bond was real the entire time. That you were never just a warm lap and a full bowl it tolerated. That you had become woven deeply into the load-bearing structure of another living being's entire world. Deep enough that your disappearance could crack the rhythm of its days. Whatever we finally decide to call what the cat feels, it is not separate from its love for you. It is the receipt for that love. So, does your cat mourn you when you are gone? Here is the honest answer, and it is heavier than the easy yes would have been. Probably not in the way you quietly fear, not with the full, knowing, crushing weight of human grief, because it almost certainly cannot understand that you are gone for good. But do not, for 1 second, mistake that for comfort. Because what your cat most likely does instead is something stranger, and in its own silent way, sadder. It keeps waiting. It does not get to grieve you, and then slowly move on, the way grief eventually allows us to do. It gets no closure, and no ending. It just keeps climbing into your chair. It keeps going to the door at the old familiar hour. It keeps lifting its head at sounds in the hall that turn out to be nothing. It keeps expecting the most important thing in its small world to walk back through that door, long past the point where there is any reason left to, holding a vigil with no end date, because no one was ever able to teach it that the waiting was supposed to stop. And the cruelest part of all of it, the part that should stay with you long after this video ends, is this. It will never get to know that you did not leave it on purpose. It will never understand that you would have come back if you possibly could have. It will only ever know that on one ordinary, unremarkable day, the warm, constant, irreplaceable thing at the very center of its life stopped appearing, and that it waited for you in the only way it ever knew how, for as long as it was given. So the next time you walk out your door, and your cat watches you go with those half-closed, unreadable eyes the world once mistook for indifference, do not mistake the stillness for not caring. You are looking at a creature that has, in its own quiet and wordless way, built the entire shape of its world around the simple fact of your returning. It cannot tell you that. It cannot grieve you the way that you would grieve it. But it can do the one thing it has always done, the one thing it will go on doing even after every last reason to has quietly run out. It can wait for you. And of all the ways a living creature can ever say that you mattered, that your presence was the thing its whole life turned around, there may be none more silent and none more complete than that.